We get breaking news that Max Domi signs an extension to return to the Toronto Maple Leafs on a 4-year deal, and the Chris Tanev situation gets crazier for the Leafs, with even the league saying they're going to be frowned upon if they continue doing what they're doing. We'll get into that later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to let you guys know that we're trying to reach 4,000 before the end of free agency, so make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. We'll be here all season long, giving you updates from all around the league. Well, that let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Leafs re-sign Max Domi. Now, if you've been on social media at all, you do see that the Toronto Maple Leafs signed Max Domi to a 4-year extension worth $3.5 million AAV. It was a long negotiation, wins up with a great side for both. Now, obviously, Max Domi was signed to his 4-year deal. There is no complete details broken down on this. We don't know how much the signing bonus is, how much he'll be given just on base salary, and all this, but it doesn't affect the cap. But as you can see, that Max Domi is taking up just under 4.3% of the cap to come back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Casey, initially looking at this, what's your thoughts and reactions on this contract?
I mean, it's well deserved. I'd love to see Max Domi come back. I think this was the guy who, out of everybody that was expiring, I really wanted to see Toronto resign because, like I said previously, I'm a Montreal fan, and this guy, he is the heart and soul of your team. He's going to go out there and put everything on the line to come away with the win. And you want a guy like that on your team, a guy who's going to die for the city of Toronto. And getting him in at a cheap cap hit in $3.75 million is definitely a great contract for Max Domi. Last year we played center, we played wing, he played all over the place and excelled at both positions. And I think this is going to be a very great piece for Craig Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they can really slot this guy in wherever they need him, and you know he's going to go out there and give it his all to come away with the win for your team.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, and I love that you brought up Craig Berube, is this guy is his exact type of player. A gritty guy with speed. He's going to battle to the very last second no matter what, and he's going to fit this system awesome. Like you said, he played everywhere in the lineup. We've seen him put up 47 points in the regular season, 4 points in 7 games in the playoffs, but we've seen Max Domi jump around from the first line center in the series versus Boston to playing on the wing with Austin Matthews, to centering the third line, centering the second line. Max Domi is a plug-and-play player, and having him within this team is just huge for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Max Domi himself to finally to be able to call somewhere home, stay here for 4 years, follow in his dad's footsteps, and hopefully lift a cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And where do you expect him to really play within this lineup next season?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like who else they sign here throughout this offseason, and that might change some things, but I really did like him up there with Austin Matthews. I got to say that, you know, that was the best Max Domi we've seen in a Leafs jersey all season was when he was playing on that top line. So I would like to see him up there, but I wouldn't be opposed to having him on that third line center either with a Matthew Nyes and possibly an Easton Cowan coming in. I think having a veteran in Max Domi with the two younger guys, he could really mentor them and shape their game to how he could really control and drive that line through his playmaking ability. And that's where I would love to see Max Domi. But like I said, man, this guy, take the stats away, take everything away. This guy is a pure workhorse. This guy is going to go out there. He's going to work as hard as he can to put points on the board, to come backtrack on defense, to do whatever he needs to do while he's out there for his shift to either create a scoring chance or take away a scoring chance for the other team. And this is a guy who I think maybe was overlooked a little tiny bit last year. I mean, it's kind of easy to overlook when you have, William Nylander having multiple 10-point streaks and Austin Matthews having 60 goals. But, I mean, Max Domi is one of those guys, when you're watching the Toronto Maple Leafs, that you notice him every game. It's very rare that you don't notice Max Domi for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think this is the perfect signing, and I think this guy's going to play a big factor into the Leafs winning Stanley Cup whenever that will be, Mark.
Yeah, and if you want to get a little fired up, go look at Max Domi's Twitter, Instagram. Look at the video he put up, The Wolf of Wall Street coming back to Toronto. It was an awesome video, and I will end this topic on one bold take. Max Domi obviously had like a career high of 80 with the Montreal Canadiens, but I'm saying it right now. If he can stay within this top six of the Toronto Maple Leafs, if this was Austin Matthews, William Nylander, whoever it might be, he's going to crush these numbers. We're going to see a part of Max Domi that we've never seen with this elite talent. But what's your guys' thoughts on this deal? What's your thoughts on Max Domi come back? Where do you want him to play within the lineup? And who do you hope gets signed next? Let us know down in the comments, but we'll get straight into the second topic today, which is the Chris Tanev situation. Now, obviously, during Elliot Freeman's 32 Thoughts podcast, he did say it was expected for the Leafs are going to offer him at least 6 years to spread the money out over term. That's the Toronto's tactic, and it's expected to be good enough to get it. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, hey, why would you give a 34-year-old that much money? But the Leafs were looking at this in the sense of, hey, why give him a 3-year deal at $4 million per year when you can give him a 6-year deal at $2 million per year? Then whatever happens towards then as the contract happens, but you save cap during this window. Now, we do get a tweet from Frank Cervelli, and I won't read through this entire thing, but the league is talking about how much they're not going to tolerate the fake years, in quotes, to add a player's contract in the mid-30s to suppress the AAV or a significant other dollar amount. Now, he did kind of bring up how the Leafs were looking at Tanev 6 years, $4 million, and how a lot of players in the league aren't going to like this, and by players, I mean Gary Bettman's not going to like this at all, and how it's going to be really frowned upon when someone gets signed for a late contract at this amount. And Casey, what's your initial thoughts on this as well?
I mean, 6 years would put him at, what, 40 years old? We just seen Gio play a season at 40 years old, so it is one of those things that's a bit iffy, definitely, and especially if the league is going to look into this in a couple of years' time when maybe there's 2 or 3 years left on this deal and they're like, he's LTIR, we're saving the money. There's definitely going to be some repercussions there. What that will be, who knows? But I think that 6 years, it's on that line. Like, we've seen players play till 40. Will we see Chris Tanev play till 40? It all depends on his body and if he's able to play till 40. So it's an interesting one, Mark, definitely, because you don't want the league breathing down your neck for signing a contract like this. But on the other hand, signing a contract like this will be perfect towards the salary cap.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is obviously Mark Giordano was the guy that's most recently done it, but he's kind of an oddball where he won the Norris at the age of 35. It's one of those things where not a lot of people have done it, but with Tanev dealing with injuries, having a lot of wear and tear on his body, the Toronto Maple Leafs are definitely looking at this in the sense of, hey, let's drop the AAV, let's get this guy back, let's try to get the extra cap space for this push that we're going to do for the next couple of years, locking up guys like Max Domi, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Tavares and Marner up. There's so many variables going into this, and obviously the league doesn't like this, and they're going to frown upon this. Like I said, you can pause this and read through these 2 screenshots if you want it, but it's definitely an interesting situation for the Toronto Maple Leafs to kind of figure out. Obviously, you don't want the league kind of just breathing on your neck during this whole situation. One general manager was also talking about the salary cap and LTIR, and he said, unquote, I'm not going to pound my fists on the table because of the LTIR situation because I might have to use it someday. So it's going to get quite complicated on how the league's going to handle this. But when you do look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, they currently have projected $15 million salary cap space. The biggest thing with this is they still have a bunch of people yet to be signed. Connor Dewar's one of the guys. You still have TJ Brody, Timothy Liljegren. You can work your way down this list. They don't have a backup goaltender. Chris Tanev they just signed just traded for is still not signed. So saving the extra $2 million is the difference on maybe bringing back a guy like Brody for your third pairing, bringing back Liljegren. This is the difference on picking up a backup goaltender. So the biggest thing with this is, and Casey, what's your thoughts and how much would you give Chris Tanev if, say, you couldn't go on the 6-year deal?
I mean, if you couldn't go for a 6-year deal, you try to get him around the $4 million range, I think, for 3 seasons. I think that's where you'd probably put him at there. But, it's definitely like it's a touchy subject because if you win a Stanley Cup and then the league comes breathing down your neck, we're like, well, we won the cup, whatever, we'll do our fines, whatever. But if you sign him for 6 years and you don't win the Stanley Cup in the first, say, 3 seasons, then, the league comes after you and starts penalizing you. I mean, that's tough off there, but it all depends, on the success of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that a 3 to 4 year deal is probably the safest option. Yes, it is the more expensive option, but if you don't want to have to deal with this grievances from the league, then it's definitely your best bet to go for. But to answer your question, I could really see him around this $4 million range.
And the biggest thing is, obviously, this is a lot of speculation coming from everyone. The Toronto Maple Leafs have their front office, they have lawyers, legal teams, they have everything in between to make sure whatever contract they sign should be the right one. If a guy like Chris Tanev goes on Robidas Island at the end of that contract or 2 years before it ends, if they do give him a 6-year deal, they'll figure it out. The Leafs are in win now. I know a lot of people in the comments said, what do you mean they're in win now? They have one of the best players in the league in Austin Matthews, William Nylander. They have this potential. They need to go all in now. And saving this $2 million would be quite a big difference, especially with the cap jumping up in the difference of bringing back other players. What's your guys' thoughts on this whole situation? How much would you give Chris Tanev on the deal? Are you worried that maybe the league does come back and penalize the Leafs? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. Comment today comes from our friend Sean. Well, I really love this trade. As always, go Leafs go. From way up north, Timmins, Ontario, Canada. Shout out you, Sean. Love seeing your support. You've been one of the day one supporters, and you're always commenting. So we want to give you a shout out. And if you wanted to leave a comment on everything we talked about today, you could be featured on the next episode, like our friend Sean did today.
Shout out Timmins, Ontario, Canada. While we're at it,
yes.
Shout out everybody in Timmins
for sure. And the biggest thing, while you're down there, leave a like, share this with your friends. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 4,000 before the end of free agency, so if you haven't done that yet, make sure to do it so you don't miss another episode. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, with my co-host Casey. Take care.